Summer routines live or die by how easy they are, and honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
It's your last chance to get gifts before the holiday, and right now at Old Navy, everything's up to 75% off with gifts from just $1, $2, $3, and $4. Buy online, pick up in store for free in 2 hours with extended store hours too. Get up to 75% off everything at Old Navy and OldNavy.com now. Valid 12/18 to 12/24, excludes gift cards, today only, 2-day only deals, register lane items, jewelry, and Zip Zap stuff gifting bins. Orders must be placed before 4 p.m. for same-day pickup, subject to availability and delays. Additional terms apply.
Michael Russo is in Dallas. I'm Jim Souhan. I'm home in Minneapolis. We are talking on Thursday before the NHL draft, which will be held where Michael is on Friday night. This is our hockey show on the TalkNorth.com podcast network. You can find all the shows at TalkNorth.com. Subscribe any way you like. Download the show before you listen. If you could, we would appreciate it. And always, as always, follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod to find all the shows, or go straight to the website. Thanks to Twill and the Edina Galleria, Fixology Repair, Minneapolis, and in the Mall of America, and Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin. Michael, where do you want to start? You're the one down there in the nerve center for right now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot. Everybody's down here trying to figure out what's going to happen with Erik Karlsson or Temi Panarin, players like that. Max Pacioretty, but obviously I'm focused on what's going to go on with the Wild, and I still think that Paul Fenton is going to make some significant moves in the next couple days, or leading into free agency, and I will say I think it's going to be whatever he does is probably going to be a very unpopular decision. I am convinced that a couple days ago he came very close to trading both Niederreiter and Zucker, and the fact that almost happened. And I'll report more about that as I flesh it out today. The fact that he almost was considering Zucker just shows you that he is potentially on the block. And I can tell you what I'm hearing right now. And again, I don't want to say it yet because I'm hoping to double and triple and quadruple source it because it is very sensitive right now. But the trade that I heard that it was going to be for would not have been a good trade in my opinion. And probably the Wild should be happy it didn't happen. So, that's the big thing. I was just talking to a couple people upstairs here in the Concierge Lounge in Marianne. I kind of threw this out them about Zucker, and they could see it happening. The agents for Zucker are supposed to meet with Fenton today or tomorrow. Same thing with Dumba's agent. I ran into him yesterday, and Dumba's agent, one of them told me that they're meeting this week. And, but it was a little shocking to me that at least the way I understand it, if they haven't really gotten down to the nitty gritty and talking numbers about Zucker, that really that they would even consider moving him at this point.
Wow, it's you've been all over this stuff, and it's fascinating stuff. Let me ask you this: although we're all getting used to Fenton, and even you don't know him that well yet as in person, what would be the motivation of trading Zucker on what might not be an optimal deal? Is that an indication they think he's peaked?
Well, the one thing I want to flesh out today is I do think that they might have been trying to get a team to take Ennis's contract in it, and so essentially they were giving up 2 good players for 2 other players. One that I like, the other that I don't. But we're going to probably create a lot of cap space. I mean, get rid of the entire Ennis 4.6. Get rid of Nito's 5.25, get rid of whatever they were going to pay Zucker, re-sign one of the players they were going to acquire, take on the salary of another player that they were going to acquire, And then they would, but in that they were going to create a lot of cap space that would probably lead to a subsequent move or even free agent move. So it's hard to rip on the trade without knowing what all the other pieces potentially were. But again, to me, the most fascinating part of this is it just tells me that he's willing to do anything at this point. That this isn't just smoke in the air, that we're all throwing every name out there. I mean, the fact that he was willing to take two of their best wingers and throw it in a potential trade, I think it says, everything about what he's trying to do here. That's more than a tweak.
This is in the vein of transitioning and trying to win right away, not kind of starting some kind of minor rebuild.
I think so. Although I got to tell you, the people he was going to acquire are nowhere near as good as those two. So, personally, again, I don't know everything that would have happened in it, but I just feel that, it's probably a better thing that I just feel like if you're going to trade a couple, whether it's a Coyle or a Niederreiter or a Zucker or a Dumba, that they could do better than what they were going to get. And I think it's better that he didn't do it, because I think that he can probably make a better move somewhere else. The thing that he probably can't do is get Ennis gone. And that was probably what was the motivating factor in the deal that I'm hearing.
Right. Anything new on the Dumba front?
No, same thing. He is the guy that I'd be worried about. I think that, it might be dangerous to commit to him long term. And because I think that the number that his agents are going to probably throw at the Wild is going to be a big number. I mean, we're not, they'll start off well over 6 a year. And that to me is concerning for him. But Zucker's the guy that I think that you can probably get on a bargain long-term deal. And he's going to be able to skate forever. And again, what my concern is when trading Zook, like I think Nino might be gone. Like I'm hearing his name everywhere. So I've almost resigned myself to that fact. But Zucker, I just feel like this team got slower last year, and to trade one of their thoroughbred skaters, and somebody that's coming off a 33-goal season, and somebody that's so invested into the community, I think would be a mistake. So we'll see. Again, his agents are kind of aware of this fact as well. So we'll see if that, leads to, better negotiations. The scary thing on their part is even if they give the Wild a reasonable contract, because Jason wants to stay in Minnesota, the concern is that, it makes it easier to trade him. Sometimes, you might want to go for the home run, but that also can let you be traded unless you're throwing some no trade clauses in there and things like that. So, again, we got to flesh out a lot of stuff today before I feel comfortable going with this actually in writing and not just on a podcast.
Hey, that's a great thing about podcasts. This is just a conversation.
We can just
ain't high journalism,
wrong, right? Brandon,
we can always erase it later if we need to. Absolutely. And you know what? I just don't know why Zucker didn't get a 13-year contract with no trade.
Can't do that one anymore. Hang on for a second. I just got a text from a source of mine on some other subject. Let me see if it's something.
While Michael is checking on the While Michael is checking on the text, I will thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and also let you know if you'd like to advertise with this show or anywhere across the ever-growing network. You can email me, jsouhan47@gmail.com. Hope to have some news on a live venue soon. And thanks to our current sponsors, including Twill in the Edina Galleria. You back, or should we do a Twill ad?
Yeah. No, the source. What I just got is I do think Trotz might make a decision today, and it's interesting. If that's the case, I wonder if they might be close on Tavares. I just feel like Trotz is going to want to know what Tavares is doing, and Tavares is going to know what Trotz is doing before he decides on the Islanders. So we'll see if that comes into fruition as well. So, by the way, Trotz is not coming to Minnesota. It just drives me crazy. These keep talking heads on radio that throw this crap out there, and then I'm the one that has to deal with the repercussions. But as I've alluded many times, just because two guys were in Nashville together doesn't mean that Trotz is Fenton's guy. And it certainly doesn't mean that Fenton is Trotz's guy. The other dynamic here is that Bruce Boudreau and Barry Trotz have the same agent. And I don't think that Gil Scott behind the scenes is going to sabotage one client to get Barry Trotz here. And I don't think that Craig Leopold is going to pay 2 more years of Boudreaux at 2+ plus his 2 consulting years, and pay the 5 years at $25 million for Barry Trotz when the Wild aren't even a Stanley Cup contender. Like, there's just certain things that fans should think about if things make sense before, they just believe everything they hear by, some guy that knows nothing on Sirius XM and, that type of stuff.
Yep, and I have another thing along those lines. I do want to thank Twill in the Edina Galleria. I was over there the other day. I won't talk about the really comfortable underwear because it makes Michael blush, and we don't want to see that. Even if it's not broadcast, you'd feel it. You'd feel the heat radiating off his cheeks. So I'm not going to talk about that. I'll just say that I'm wearing a lot of the stuff right now. I spend my own money on it. It's not gifted to me. I buy it because I like it, because it's really well made. It lasts a long time. It's casual. My wife likes it, and she hates the way I used to dress before I started going to Twill. So drop by. She did. So drop by Edina Galleria, check out Scott's stuff. A lot of golf stuff, a lot of casual stuff in the front of the store this time of the year. And I really highly recommend Johnny O and Peter Millar. And he's got some new brands I'd never heard of before that he's buddies with. He knows the owners. I would go check out that stuff, as well as I told you, Michael, last week, the garment bag that rolls into a duffel bag, which might change my life.
Hi, I'm Stacy Souhan. I love Twill, Scott Dayton's shop in the Edina Galleria. Twill takes the stress out of shopping by offering updated traditional fashion. I know that if Jim goes in there shopping alone, I will like what he buys, whether it's pajamas, flannel shirts, or suits. I plan to recommend Twill to my daughter when she has to buy wedding party gifts and attire. Twill in the Edina Galleria will bring your fashion game to a championship level.
So, Michael, here's the other thing fans have to be careful about. Blow it up. Well, now you're hearing what kind of deals you might have to make to blow it up. You might end up with really bad deals and a really bad team.
Yeah. As I said, I think you could take a step back. I just think that the Wild could do better. But again, this is, sometimes when you find out 1/10 of a scoop, you don't know all the corresponding moves. And so, it's hard for me to me, the story is, if I report this today, is more that he is talking about everybody, like legit, for real. Even guys like Zucker, and if he's talking Zucker, who knows? He could be talking Granlund, he could be talking Spurgeon. Just the fact that he's willing to move, I think, anybody right now, except, obviously the guys that he is probably incapable of moving, and that's Zach, and he's never moving Ryan Suter. Nor would anybody at this point, until they figure out what's going on with his injury, take on that type of contract. So, I think that there's nobody on the team that's probably untouchable right now.
Have you heard anything about Suter's rehab?
I heard that it's going well. He's still, I think weight-wise can't put a lot on it at all probably yet. But I hear that he's ahead of schedule. But again, we have to see what he's going to look like when he gets on the ice. And then the other thing is we got to see is what's he like when he gets on the ice. Is he the same Ryan Suter as old?
Right. No, absolutely. Any interesting draft intrigue now that you're down in Dallas? Anything?
Well,
anything revolving around the draft?
I know that the fans that love the draft and prospects and stuff probably get annoyed the fact that I don't delve deep into it, especially when the Wild pick. Like if the Wild were in the top 5 or 10, I'd be a lot more trying to figure out these guys. But to me, it's shooting fish in a barrel, trying to figure out who the heck the Wild are going to take at 24. So I don't know that. So, from a beat writer point of view, I get excited about the, last night we were at dinner and we were all running around because we thought Pacioretty was about to get traded. That's the fun part of this for me, is hanging out with all my kind of brethren, trying to break stories, running into, last night I ran into, late last night I ran into agents and scouts and coaches, and that's the stuff you like, is kind of, going around the bars and trying to learn things. That's the cool part of this whole thing, is being at the draft, and why all beat writers need to be at the draft, because every who's who, you just never know who you're going to run into. You go up to the concierge lounge today and immediately run into one of Zucker's agents, go into the concierge lounge yesterday and run into Dumba's agent. It's just, this is why you got to be here.
Yeah, well, I remember covering NFL owners and general managers meetings, and those were pretty controlled. But, man, when I started covering baseball and started going to winter meetings and GM meetings and owners meetings, they were they were conventions, and they were conventions with convention-like drinking. And sometimes you got your best reporting done at 2 a.m. when the assistant general manager from the Detroit Tigers had one too many beers and just told you everything that's going on.
Yeah, that's how I used to be when I covered Brian Murray as in Florida. I mean, that was a different time. I mean, I can count on one finger the amount of drinks I had with Chuck Fletcher in his 9 years as a Wild GM, and this is a guy that started in Florida and knew me for well. But Brian, I mean, man, after a game, if he was pissed, you made sure you were in that bar at some point because you'd learn everything. I mean, he was just talkative. It's a shame that Brent and Chuck, who were the right hand man of Brian, never learned that. They're not that way.
Yeah, and
in terms of
funny,
without
right,
letting things fly in a bar setting.
Right. Well, it's funny too because I used to check in with Terry Ryan after games sometime, and at one point he told me, "Listen, I can't talk to you after losses anymore. I might say anything."
Sometimes I once got the greatest text from Chuck Fletcher at like 11:30 at night. We were flying to Phoenix the next morning. He knew I had an early flight. It was like 11:30 or midnight. I get this text from Chuck Fletcher saying, "Hey, did you cover our game tonight?" And I knew that I had talked to him in the press box, and I knew that he remembered it. And I said, yeah. And then I go, why? And he goes, I just read your story. Oh. And then it was like on. It was like on for like 2 hours of just FU text back and forth between the two of us. So the funniest thing is, I was on an early flight to Phoenix because the Wild were practicing in Phoenix the next day. And so I show up at practice at like 1 o'clock in Phoenix, and he looks at me and goes, "You look really tired." Because he knew that I got no sleep the night before because he was the reason that I got no sleep because he agitated me to such a degree. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now I like Chuck. It took me like 8 years, but now I like him.
So he definitely has a wit. There's no doubt.
Yeah. Oh, no question. I wish I'd gotten a chance to see it more often. Man, I tell you what, the few times I would actually approach him myself to try to talk to him, like SWAT teams descended. "Oh no, you can't talk to the general manager. Come on." Just a guy.
Well, no, he's usually good at like that. But it was funny. Like sometimes, like if I was texting back and forth with Chuck, he would say something to me in the most sarcastic, like a sarcastic thing, and I'd just say to him, "I know that you didn't come up with that. You have to be right next to Brent Flair." And usually it was. So.
Speaking of. I was going to try it for an awkward transition, and I couldn't pull it off. So I'm just going to tell you that John Hedges runs Fixology Repair downtown Minneapolis and in Mall of America. 3rd floor of Mall of America by Nordstrom's. I've been by that shop many times. Big, beautiful space. They sell all kinds of different stuff. They fix all kinds of different stuff. Everything watches, jewelries, Apple products, whatever you want. And now they have the newer shop, which is now pretty well established downtown Minneapolis in the Skyway, right above, I believe, Crown Bank, right just south of the Wells Fargo Center, right across from Taco John's and Dunn Brothers. John is a friend of the program. We're hoping we can start doing live shows again soon because we like seeing John at the shows. He's a blast.
There are some things in life that you just can't live without. Now, whether it's a special piece of jewelry, a watch, or even your smartphone, you want it in working condition. At Fixology Repair, we are committed to restoring your pieces so that everything works or fits the way it ought to. Watch servicing, chain repair, and broken screen replacements are just a few of the services that we offer at our 2 locations, Mall of America and the Skyway in downtown Minneapolis. Please visit us at fixologyrepair.com or at fixologymn on Twitter to learn more. Mention this ad and get a 10% discount on our services.
All right, you want to do Twitter questions? You have another topic you want to get to?
Let's go Twitter questions.
All righty. Let's see. Let's start with Charles C. Norris. What are the chances Bach makes it to 24?
No clue.
Let me ask you this: do you like Bach? Have you looked into it far enough to have an
I like him better than Michael Botker.
Is that his name?
No. Michael Botker was just traded to.
Okay.
Oh, that's actually a good one to talk about. Is how the Ottawa Senators effed up the whole Mike Hoffman stuff last week. Although,
tell me about it.
I think the big story is that they actually were able to trade Hoffman with all the alleged stuff going on with the cyberbullying between his fiance and Erik Karlsson's wife. But Ottawa moved him to San Jose for Michael Botker, a marginal prospect, and a late round pick. And Botker's such a dog. And although he had a couple little stretches of good play last year. But and then like an hour later, San Jose moved him to Florida for a bunch of draft picks that would have been so much better than the Ottawa first trade. So but I have no clue about Bach.
Okay. From our friend Luke Cahill, how is your heart rate trying to figure out if Fenton is a draft week trade guy or a draft day trade guy?
I don't know. I mean, he almost, again, made a trade last weekend, and which means that, anything can happen at any time. Yeah, I mean, I'm on guard, let's put it that way.
From Bill, who's been to the live shows, with the goalie pipeline completely non-existent in the organization, is this something Fenton needs to address in the short term?
Yeah, they'll draft a goalie this weekend. There's no doubt about it. But look, I mean, Dubnik's got 3 more years on his contract. I agree that they could probably do better than Stalock, and we'll see if they upgrade there. They have Michael Lick, they're bringing Kakkonen over, and so we got to see what he's like. He obviously is coming off a pretty good European career so far. But yeah, they've got to get some goalies in the pipeline.
Patrick Gage is asking if you see a trade of the pick or moving up or down with the pick.
I think it'd be hard to move up without a second. And so I can see them move down a little. I think I would be shocked if they trade their pick outright. I think more than likely with 3/3, they probably move up into the second round. But I think they take a player at 24. I'd be shocked if it's not a forward. I mean, obviously we have to see if, some dynamic guys fall in like Ryan Merkley, although, man, did I hear some bad reports the last couple days on Ryan Merkley, what type of attitude he has. And it's very clear why a guy with that much talent, his stock has just completely plummeted. He just seems like trouble potentially, but he could play. But, with the lack of offensive forwards and real quality prospects in this organization, I just cannot see the Wild not taking a forward, but we'll see.
From Cody Pollock, what are the details of trading to get Pominville back? Smiley face.
Man, I don't know if you saw my draft analysis I did on the 9 Chuck Fletcher drafts, but it is really, really unbelievable the way the Pominville trade coming and going just affected like 50 different things in subsequent drafts, with all the draft picks that were traded and things like that. Man, yeah. And I think it hurt. It hurt.
Yeah. From someone called Mauer Power on Twitter, what would it take to acquire Simmons? How much do you think extending Simmons would cost?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think it'd be in the 6s, probably at least. It's going to take some significant assets as well. He's a year from UFA, which is what the scary thing is. But again, I was told the other day that he's going to be moved, and I was told from pretty good sources that would know, which makes me think that maybe the Wild have no shot because maybe they know that he's kind of on their no trade list. I don't know because the sources seem to know a lot.
Interesting. Really good question here from Todd, our friend who also shows up at the live shows. When he asked Colin, his 5-year-old, for a question, Colin blurted out, "Don't trade Nino," because Michael Russo says that would be a very unpopular move. How do PR staffs handle the trades of really popular players? So I guess PR staffs and franchises.
Yeah, they don't. They just do their job as businesslike. I mean, there's nothing they can really do, but by that standard. I mean, other than continually to pump up the person that's coming here. I mean, we saw that a couple years ago when Brent Burns was traded to San Jose in 2011. It was all about Charlie Coyle and Devin Setaguchi. So that's really all they can do is just really do everything they can to just I'm not saying pump up, but publicize, get videos, get exclusive interviews, factoids, things like that they do all over social media and things like that.
Right. From Patrick Gage, from Von Trushinsky, longtime listener. Have you heard of Minnesota's pushing hard for Panarin? Isn't he precisely the type of game changer you'd aggressively work to acquire?
Yeah, but first of all, he's going to cost $78 million, probably over an 8-year deal. I don't know how the Wild can afford that. At least 9, maybe even 9.5 times 8. And I don't see Columbus giving the Wild permission to talk to Dan Milstein about him. So you'd have to do it essentially by tampering to find out if you can extend the guy. Look, the deal is here. I'm hearing the last couple of days is that he wants to be on either coast in a big city. After being in Chicago, I think he wants that. His wife is a model. I think wants to be out in New York or LA. I just don't see the Wild having what it takes to get him.
She could be a flannel model and live here.
And you cannot give up load. You can't give up a boatload of trying to keep it clean. Don't want to make Brandon have to stuff out and put little notes at the beginning of the podcast.
I love it when Brandon puts stuff out because he does it in a funny way, and it's better than the actual curse word. So
okay.
Go ahead and cuss away.
Yeah, you can't give up a load of prospects and picks and impact players, although I think they'd want players to be on the team. I think the Wild definitely have what it takes to get them, but you can't give it up if you don't know if you can re-sign them. And can the Wild, having 7 more years of $15 million of Parisian Suter, take a guy that's going to have a $9 million cap hit? I mean, this is again, when the Wild committed those deals, I know it was all exciting at the time, but it did have an effect on the organization the rest of the way. And there's a lot of guys. And then, by the way, if the Wild got Panarin, you can't do anything else pretty much for the next several years. So I just don't see right now in my own head how it's potentially going to work.
Let's get it to a question here from
and
John
again,
Paulson.
The one thing is, he's going to probably indicate that he wouldn't re-sign with them if what I'm hearing is true, and that's what he wants to be on either L.A. or New York or something like that. So
I think we should file a Midwestern bias discrimination lawsuit.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
although Minneapolis is a nice place, they got a modeling.
It's a great place.
Right? Yeah.
Minneapolis is a beautiful place, but isn't as perceived as cool as the coast.
He probably has never been to Minneapolis.
Right?
All the teams stay in St. Paul.
Right, which is a huge mistake. Did I say that? I didn't say that. Brandon,
I didn't want to say it.
I like St. Paul too, but Minneapolis is where I live, and Minneapolis is where I would go if I was on an expense account. Let's put it that way. Let's get to a question from John Paulson on O'Reilly. We do want to thank our friend Tony Hoaglund. As I've told you before, he handles my insurance. He handles Michael's insurance. He advertises across the network. He works out of Champlin, but can help you wherever you are, via app, via phone, via email, whatever. It's a very easy person, and he has an easy staff to work with.
Hey, Minnesota sports fans. This is your local State Farm agent, Tony Hoaglund. I need you all to ask yourselves this question. If you're in an at-fault car accident and you are sued for $700,000, how much of that $700,000 will my current insurance company pay? If you are unsure or can't answer all $700,000, you need to give us a call. State Farm has been number one in car insurance since World War II and number one in homeowners insurance since 1964. For a no-obligation review of your current policies, call us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at www.champlininsurance.com.
So John Paulson's question is, do the Wild have any interest in O'Reilly? We need a center. They need a wing. Seems like a potential fit, ?
I don't know. With $7.5 million on what, 5 or some insane amount of term left, that's the same thing. I think he's a great player, and he is what the Wild need. But same thing. I mean, there's always a yin and a yang with every single move that you make, and O'Reilly is one where the amount of money that you have to pay him is just so tough to see in terms of term. But look, they need wingers. The Wild need, as he said, a center, and we'll see. I would personally, if you're going to trade for either of those, I'd still figure out a way to. I love Panarin over O'Reilly, but you're right. I mean, it would make sense, but the money is extremely steep.
A question from Lonnie, also known on Twitter as Generous Carriage. This is a classic Russo question. On a scale of what are your off-season plans to what's up with Backstrom, how much do you hate the word tweak?
I'm getting there. I'm trying to come up with different words. That tweak, it's just going to live on in infamy. It's like when Tommy Thompson said we're trying to get pizzazz, and pizzazz was a big word back in 2007 or 8. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. From AJ, will Sam Anis make his NHL debut this season? Given his size, what are the things he needs to improve on to make him an NHL player?
Probably a better even strength player. Better in his own zone. As he alluded, he can't just grow another 5 inches at this stage in his life. But look, again, the Wild don't have a ton of opportunity down for guys in Iowa to be in this organization. I mean, there's just not a lot of great players down there. So I think that it'd be nice to get Annis a chance, but I mean, we have to see who they sign this summer. It also has to be a role. I mean, Sam Annis can't come to the Minnesota Wild and play on the fourth line with Marcus Foligno. I mean, last year the Wild were healthy for the most part, the beginning of the season and really the second half. In a top 6 role. Remember, they had to make a move to even afford to call Cunnin up, and then he got hurt. So they just didn't have the cap space. Also, he came close to being called up, but at the time, I think Bruce wanted to go a different type of player, and they didn't go with him.
3 really good questions coming up here. At least I think so. Ken Cutler, scouts claiming that after the second round, there's not much left, and the view that after the first 2 picks, it might be a toss-up. Do the Wild try to get a second-round pick in the Friday night draft?
Well, I think that, it depends on who's there. They have 3/3, and so it depends on who they like in that position. That's what it's going to come down to. Those are the type of trades that usually happen on the draft floor. If all of a sudden there's a player right there that the Wild have really high, maybe even in their first round on their list, that's when you try to make some moves.
From AT, King Kong Cat Kong, apparently, on Twitter. Does fitting in with Minnesota culture play a role in how a team is put together? Example, lots of Scandinavian players, rarely a Russian on the team, generally reserved personalities.
No, I think it's the type of people running the show. I mean, Brent and Chuck have always, been concerned about Russian players for the very reason that they're having issues getting Kaprizov here. And frankly, they might have a GM that's the same way. I mean, this is a guy who's won history in recent years was Alexander Radulov bailing and leaving his NHL contract and going back to Russia. So, you might have a GM that has the same type of philosophy to kind of avoid these guys. But look, sometimes it works out. I remember it took, Kuznetsov was kind of the Kaprizov of the Washington Capitals. It took him a long time to convince him to come over here. They finally got him over here, and now the guy's one of the best players in the world and helped lead him to a cup, and very easily could have won the Conn Smythe Trophy, led the Caps in scoring in the playoffs. So it's tough. It depends on the player. I think it's very important to interview these guys. I always believe that if these Russian players have been playing Canadian juniors in particular, that shows a sign that they want to play in the NHL and they want to come to North America. That's why I think Sokolov was worth the risk, taking him in the 7th round. And you know what? I mean, Russia made him pay. They've not put him on international teams for that stuff. There's a lot of politics that fans just don't get. I mean, just look what happened to Kaprizov last year. The guy didn't play in the World Championships. The captain of the World Junior Championships that led the tournament in goals was put on the Russian team and was not allowed to play. Why? Because they were holding him hostage, for a lack of a better term, to sign his KHL extension. That's the politics. So Team Russia was playing politics to keep him in the KHL. I mean, this is the type of stuff that these guys have to deal with over there. And the Wild paid the price for that.
From Daniel File, would trading for a restricted free agent's rights be a possibility? How do negotiations work in a sign and trade situation between GM and also GM and agents?
Well, sometimes there's, I remember when Devin Setaguchi was traded to the Wild, he signed a 3-year, $9 million deal with San Jose the day before, undervalued because he wanted to be part of a core with Logan Couture and Joe Pavelski forever. And they signed him. This is kind of what I meant with Zucker, that you got to be careful of signing too undervalue. And then what had happened is all of a sudden that contract was so tolerable to the Wild, $3 million for a 20-something goal scorer in Seto, that the next day San Jose flipped him to Minnesota in the Brent Burns trade, and Seto was just ticked off at it. So sometimes you have that. And then other times, you can absolutely trade for a restricted free agent. We just saw the Montreal Canadiens do it the other day with Max Domi, and then they signed him the next day. The one thing that you won't see many teams doing, and you definitely won't see the Wild doing because they don't have their draft picks to pay for compensation, is sign guys to offer sheets where they're restricted free agents after July 1 that you actually get that player to sign with you, and then the other team has 7 days to match, and if they don't match, they get a bunch of draft picks as compensation depending on what the price of the guy's contract was. The most recent huge example, there was Chalmerson with San Jose and Chicago. But the big one was Philadelphia signing Shea Weber, the huge 14-year deal, and really, holding a gun to Nashville's head. They either had to match it or get a ton of draft picks, and they wound up matching it, and amazingly they were able to eventually trade him for PK Subban, which is going to be a deal that they're going to absolutely get the best of. So those are situations. And by the way, that's a perfect example of why I just think Nashville Predators fans are absolutely foolish when they boo Suter and loved Weber. Like, Weber, as a group two, actually went and signed an offer sheet with the Philadelphia Flyers and was trying to get out of Nashville. And again, I don't know if it's just Nashville Predators fans not understanding how that works, but he was a hero, but yet Ryan Suter was painted as the villain because he left as an unrestricted free agent. It's kind of funny.
Two more questions and then a final not thought from Michael Russo. He's famous for his final not thoughts. Thanks again to Twill. Check him out, TWILL on Instagram, as well as twillmn.com. State Farm agent Tony Hoaglund, Hoaglund, and Fixology Repair, fixologyrepair.com. Downtown Minneapolis and the Skyway, and third floor of the Mall of America by Nordstrom's. Thanks to all of our sponsors. We do appreciate the support. From Generous Carriage, please recommend to Fenton that if he's going to make several moves with one team, to do so with a good team and not a perennial bottom feeder like Buffalo. Is there something to that?
I think so. Every move look, Hansel from Arizona, Chris Stewart from Buffalo, Matt Molson from Buffalo, Cody McCormick from Buffalo, Jason Pominville from Buffalo, although they weren't really a bottom feeder at that time. But I do think that there's a losing culture that's being painted, and then obviously we saw it with Ennis and Foligno. So there's a losing culture after years of losing, I will say that the deal that I'm hearing was with a bottom feeder.
Wow.
that
How about
I alluded
that?
to at the very beginning of this. So,
wow.
But those are the teams, though. Remember, that are usually the ones that are looking to trade. Like right now, same thing. Buffalo, Carolina, Arizona are the teams that are making moves. That's why I also said that I do think that the Wild should consider really trying to swing a deal with a team like Anaheim, who is almost in a similar position as the Wild, aging. Disappointed in the way that things went in the postseason. Having to re-sign guys like John Gibson and maybe Adam Henrique. So go after, maybe a Henrique or a Silverberg or something like that.
Right. Two more questions, Michael, from AT. With the new CBA, is there any way the Wild could get out of the Parisi and Suter contracts?
Not unless in the new CBA they have a way to get out of it. But right now there is no way.
From Alec,
recapture would kill him.
Right. From Alec, would it be better to trade down and get a decent UFA rather than picking mediocre college kids?
I'm not exactly understanding the question.
I'm not either.
Down, if they trade down, they're still, if you're saying trade down in the draft, they're still going to be getting, either a college kid or a junior kid or something like that. In the spot that the Wild are at right now, a couple of years ago, there were guys like Kiefer Bellows, Colin White was 21, Brock Besser. These guys aren't mediocre college kids, so you can get it. If I'm understanding the question right, at the 20s, if you draft a college kid, you can still get a really good player.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't get the question.
All right, let's wrap up with another question from Luke. Should fans be concerned that the GM won't be running the draft?
No, that always happens. Heck, if you looked at my draft analysis today, one of the best drafts the Wild had the year it was Chuck Fletcher's was the 2009 draft that Tommy Thompson ran. Look at the amount of guys they actually hit on in the draft. They actually got Letty right. They just screwed up the trade. But you look at the rest of that draft, and they actually did pretty well. So, but this is the way it works. You can't on May 22nd fire all the scouts, and these guys have been preparing all year. Who's going to run it? Paul Fenton hasn't been going to, Siberia and all over Europe and Western Canada and the 7 hours north of Manitoba and all these places. He hasn't done that this year, but the Wild scouts have, and the way it works is that you don't fire scouts before the draft, because they can potentially go to other teams and give them intel that from your meetings. And that's why Paul Fenton wasn't allowed in the Nashville meetings when he was going for the Wild job. It's just Brent's going to run this, and then I do think that there'll be changes. I do see changes potentially to the pro scouting department. I think they'll be tinkering with the amateur scouts. Then we'll see what happens with Brent. Brent has another year on his deal. Tommy Thompson actually did the draft with, it's kind of similar. I mean, he did the draft his first year, and another year left on his deal. And all of a sudden, they hired Brent in July. They were like co-assistant GMs that first year. And all of a sudden in April, it was actually kind of a shady thing, but he's he like lands in Europe to do scouting in April, and he's fired. And so he got fired while in Europe by Chuck Fletcher.
Wow.
And you could conceivably see that happening with Brent, where all of a sudden, maybe in July or August, we find out that he hires whoever is going to be his right-hand man in the front office, but Brent stays on for the year, and then all of a sudden, when his contract's up, he's you almost take advantage of the fact that you got to pay him anyway, that he's still doing his job for a year, but then before you have to put him, in your meetings getting ready for the next draft, you let him go. So that could conceivably be happening. I just don't see Paul Fenton and Brent Flair coexisting forever. Like, I just can't see that Brent is going to last more than a year here if he's not let go this summer.
Do we have a Michael Russo thought or not to wrap up the show?
No, not really.
I knew it.
I have a final thought. Yeah, we haven't talked about Russo slacks. So you want to hear something really just creepy and sketchy? So
I don't know.
Dark picture in a steakhouse yesterday. Arpon, who I didn't even know that Russo slacks follows on Twitter, takes a picture of Ken Wiebe and this gigantic lemon cake that he has, and it's this dark picture. You can't see what's going on in the background. And all of a sudden, I looked at my Twitter account last night, like 1 a.m., and somehow Russo Slacks found that I was in this picture, blew it up, and tweeted that picture. Like, how creepy it is. One, that he even followed Arpon, but then two, like, had to blow it up to see that I was actually in the picture, and then screen captures and puts it out.
Man, I tell you what, I hope you don't have a pet rabbit.
Yeah. How come there's no, like...
That's a really old school reference, by the way.
How come there's no, like, Souhan parody account that stalks you?
There is,
we
but
need that?
I've hired a private security firm, and they've taken care of that.
Yeah.
We got the Russo sigh. We can end the show now. We got the Russo. We ripped Russo slacks. We got the Russo sigh. I think all is right in the world.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. We went to the beach and it was covered in ice. And I used to call it home. So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world won't forgive a winner.
It's your last chance to get gifts before the holiday, and right now at Old Navy, everything's up to 75% off with gifts from just $1, $2, $3, and $4. Buy online, pick up in store for free in 2 hours with extended store hours too. Get up to 75% off everything at Old Navy and OldNavy.com now. Valid 12/18 to 12/24, excludes gift cards, today only, 2-day only deals, register lane items, jewelry, and Zip Zap stuff gifting bins. Orders must be placed before 4 p.m. for same-day pickup, subject to availability and delays. Additional terms apply.